And before we get into what this show is all about and why it's so exciting, we had better introduce ourselves first. So as I said, I'm Rukayyah. I'm a GP, a nutritional therapist, a functional medicine practitioner, and a rapid transformational therapy practitioner.
It's a bit of a mouthful, right?
So I work as a GP in inner city Peterborough, and privately I coach women with hormonal health issues to take control of their health and their lives through a holistic root cause based approach. So what that means is I use a variety of tools, including diet and nutrition, herbs and nutritional supplements.
If you want to learn about
training,
Islam and
stress
Muslims,
management,
stay tuned
resilience,
to Salam Radio
hypnotherapy, and much, much more to try and understand why a person became sick in the first place and how we can work with the body to get you back to a state of health. So that's me.
That's amazing work. So some of you may already be aware of Dr. Rukayyah's work. She's worked with many women in the community, and there's so many testimonials that speak for themselves of how amazing your work is.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm Madhia. I'm also a rapid transformational therapist. Some of you may be wondering what that means. So what we do is we use a combination of CBT, NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, psychotherapy, and hypnotherapy to help our clients to get to the root cause of any issue. This issue may be mental, physical, emotional. I additionally do life coaching. I've been doing life coaching for over a decade now, and I've recently trained in energy healing. I'm also an educator and trainer. I'm currently, I've just finished teaching secondary school math. And I also concentrate on and support school with behaviour management. But most importantly, my role that I learned from the most is I'm a mum of 3 beautifully boisterous boys.
They are, mashallah.
Beautiful, right?
Yes, and boisterous.
Mashallah.
Mashallah, mashallah.
So my interests are in using a wholesome approach. So we're using the mind, the body to overcome blocks. And these blocks may be emotional, physical, mental. Like Dr. Rukayyah, we both go down to the root cause of an issue, because once we remove the root cause, we can then actually be away with this block and live a healthier life and a better life.
Yeah, because we're designed to always come back to a state of health. It's just that we have certain blocks against that, and when you remove the block, your body and your mind would naturally turn back to a state of health. So we'll talk a little bit about why we wanted to do this show, Madhia.
Yeah, so I've been a therapist for a little while now and a life coach, like you know, for over a decade. And when I'm working with my clients, and actually I have this masterclass and workshop which talks about the mind, which I ran a few times nationally. And what I've noticed that there are key root skills and knowledge that if I believe that you knew them, you'd be able to live a better life. And be able to sort of like live upgrade your life in a way where you can have better experiences with what you have at hand. And so what I thought, maybe if we can sit here and share this with you, then you can take away weekly tools, weekly tips, where you can actually start to make small improvements to your life, because at the end that's all we want, essentially, is we want to try and live the best version of our lives and live the happiest experience that we can. And we know some secrets and we're really keen to share them with you.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that my reasons for doing the show are similar. So when I worked as a GP, I still do work as a GP, I found that there was certain things that were lacking in the way I was practicing. Particularly, I really wanted to understand why people were sick rather than just treating their symptoms or managing their symptoms. And the more I went down the route of getting to the bottom of why people get sick, the wider my perspective became. So it moved from drugs to also nutrition, and then, stress management, and then, day and night and how you sleep. And then from there, it moved on to how do people's past traumas impact how their body is coming up with illness. So what I found when I started working with all of that is that there's some foundations to health and well-being, and it's not
rocket science.
It's not rocket science, but they are things that for a lot of us perhaps have been lost. So we wanted to start sharing some of these ideas that seem very common sense, very easy to implement, but perhaps things that we don't talk about enough nowadays.
So this show is for you. And so we're really keen on getting interaction. So please call us on 01733 602 133 or text us in on 07411 191062. Tell us what you think A Good Life is about, or what you may want to learn from this show. We're really keen to give you what you need and what you want.
And we're really keen to learn as we go along. So your questions, your inquiries, your input is going to help us learn as well.
And navigate the show.
Exactly.
Wonderful. So, one of the reasons why we want to do the show and kind of like the content of the show and what we've chosen is sharing knowledge. And why is it important to share knowledge? And we believe that knowledge is power. And I know that this is kind of like a proverb in sort of like the Arab, it's an Arab proverb that knowledge is power. And we've seen this with our clients, that once they've been aware of something, that with a click of a finger, things have changed for them.
Exactly.
We also have the dua that we recite often, and I remember as a young child, my parents, encouraging me to recite this as I was trying to learn and memorize the Quran particularly, is Rabbi zidni ilma, is that, oh Lord, increase me in knowledge. And why would we ask, why are we encouraged to recite this dua if knowledge isn't important? But the question is, what type of knowledge is it that's important?
Yeah, I think as Muslims, the vast majority of us have a good idea that in our religion, knowledge is really important. We know that the first word revealed in the Quran was Iqra, which is to read. And then within the same surah, a few verses down, the pen is mentioned, so which is the means of gaining and passing on knowledge. Now, so we understand knowledge is important, but I think sometimes we have this idea that knowledge is the knowledge of halal and haram, and ultimately it's true that beneficial knowledge is knowledge that leads you to Allah, but it would be a mistake to think that that's only knowledge of halal and haram that leads you to Allah. And let me explain why. If you have gained knowledge on the halal and haram and you have your basic Islamic knowledge, but you are not aware of your own internal workings, you're not aware of your own intentions, your motivations, the blocks to action that you might have inside of you, then it could be that religious knowledge is of no benefit to you because you can't take any action with it.
Yeah.
And so this knowledge of knowing yourself is an integral part of our tradition, and it's beneficial knowledge. So what we're doing in this show is helping you get to know yourself a bit better and helping you realize some of the blocks that you may have to action, but also some of the motivations that would work for you. And hopefully when you start getting to know yourself a little bit better and you start getting to know those things about yourself a little bit better, you will see that it's beginning to impact not just your practical life or your relationships or your relationship with yourself, but also hopefully it would impact you spiritually.
Can you give an example of where you've seen this with maybe one of your clients, like hands-on? Because I can think of a client that maybe I could share that actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I had a client who, mashallah, she's a Quran teacher, and she had ijazah from, a very well-renowned teacher, and she was teaching Quran to young children, and she had studied kind of like the halal and haram, the fiqh, etc., and she was very kind of like upheld her religion. But she came to me because she was carrying a lot of anger towards her husband, a lot of anger towards her children. And when we did some healing work, what we discovered is that she's hurt. And because she's hurt, she doesn't know that she's hurt, and she doesn't know how to channel that hurt. And no one's actually giving her any attention to that hurt. She's taking it out on the people that are closest to her. And she said this to me, she's like, Madhia, I'm reciting Quran, I'm teaching Quran, and look at me, look at the anger that I carry. And it feels paradoxical. She's like, I've got Quran and I'm trying my best to stay away from haram and do all the halal, but still, like, I don't like who I am. And that goes back to what you say, because the knowledge of halal and haram is paramount and it's important, and that's where we need to go, but it's not complete. We need to have knowledge of ourselves, understand ourselves and how we work to be able to move forward. And speaking about how we work, this show is going to really be focusing on, and we're going to be bringing evidence to you on how the mind, the body and the soul are one and whole. We cannot treat them as individual compartments. but rather they are one life, one wheel that are always interconnected, interdependent, and always working together. And there's no it's not a one-way relationship. It's not that the mind affects the body and the body affects the spirit, or whichever way you want to describe it, but the fact that they are all interdependent and interrelated. And once we understand how they are interdependent and interrelated, we'll understand why we get angry when we know we shouldn't do, why we are feeling low when everything is going right in life at the surface. I'm just thinking back to some of the clients that, I've seen, and some of the stories that we've heard from other therapists, is that life may seem okay, but why is the inside not okay? Why are we not feeling okay internally? Because once we feel okay internally, that's when we will reach our full potential. Nothing will hold us back. Of course, life is still going to be filled with waves of ups and downs, but we'll be able to swim them far better.
Just on that, what I wanted to add, I think one of the very basic ways in which we can understand how your overall health would impact your spirituality, because people do separate them out, but if you don't know how to look after your body, for example, that's going to impact your ability to be able to worship Allah, whether that's bending down in prayer, or whether it's just being able to fast,
or being able to wake up for salah because
exactly.
You're tired, you're exhausted. Adrenal fatigue is very common.
Yeah, exactly, and that's going to have an impact on on how you worship Allah. But not just that, we know that what's going on for us spiritually is going to have an impact also on our body. And it's a very common thing for us to have work with people who have aches and pains, but the causes of the aches and pains are nothing to do with a disease in the body, and you can't see me, but I'm saying disease with inverted commas, making inverted commas with my fingers, because those are not diseases. Those are signs from your body to say, hold on, or your being to say that there's some attention needed here. You need to pay attention. There are some needs that are unmet, and those needs could be arising from many different parts of our multi-layered, multifaceted being. So getting to know ourselves is critical here.
So, talking about some case studies before we move on, shall we share with everyone some of the case studies that we've had where people have come with a physical symptom, but actually the root cause lay somewhere else, and usually it's emotional, right?
Yep.
So is anything coming to your mind, springing to your mind at the moment? I know I'm putting you on the spot because I know you've worked with so many cases.
So right at the top of my head, I can think of a lovely lady I worked with who has diabetes, and she was really struggling to get this diabetes under control. The medication she was being given was causing her a lot of side effects, so without telling her doctor, she had just simply stopped taking it. And she came to me with her diabetes completely out of control. And to the point that I was worried. I said the diet aspect that we can work on might take a little bit of time, and I think you need to get these blood sugars down very quickly, so perhaps you need to be on medication while we do the work. Anyway, she didn't go work on the medication.